Y'all, shots are actively being fired, politically, of course, between the far left progressives and the establishment Dems. They just sent out John Fetterman, Dean Phillips, to go directly against the AOCs, the Ro Khannas. The far left progressive versus establishment Dem battle is occurring right now, and it is the story that you need to be paying attention to because it matters to you a whole hell of a lot. Everything's going to be linked in the description box below. Guys, I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and you can follow me on X at Braden LOA if you would like. All right. What I'm about to show for you guys quickly, I'm not going to bury the lead on you. Y'all have a lot of things to do, and I understand and I appreciate your time. This is something that is incredibly important because it provides you an amazing opportunity to consolidate and solidify your wins for this country. You know, on this channel, we are driving towards saving the country for ourselves, for our current experience, but also for the next generation in a continuity of freedom of which we provide. It's our role and our duty to do so. And the division that you are seeing in the Democrats right now is a golden opportunity. I've been telling you for 9 to 12 months. In fact, this is why we pay such close attention to all the little details and bring you this content, is because it puts you in a position to know what's going to happen and you can make your moves based off of what's happening. This is it, guys. The far left progressives versus the Dem war. They sent out Fetterman on the news circuit. Listen to this. I've got it all for you, along with Dean Phillips. Let me hear you in the comments and share this out. Watch this.
Do you believe that this may be, at least in part, about your party changing and the populist movement in reaction to MAGA and the Democratic Socialists, that this may be a moment where they want to take over the Democratic Party?
All right, Chris Cuomo is figuring it out. He literally just said the populist, the progressive, they are taking over the party. That is actively what we've been saying together, you and I talking about this for 9 to 12 months. The reason this is important is because now it's going mainstream and they're sending out responses to it through Fetterman, through Dean Phillips. This is the fight you're going to watch for the next several months. You are ahead of the curve because no one else is talking about it. This is very important, particularly in his response. Listen to what Fetterman says after Cuomo says the obvious part.
I promise you, America's future and my party's future is not socialism or kinds of outlandish far left kinds of ideas. And it's been a year ago, you know, after we lost the election, a lot of those parts and part of those ideas pushed our party over the cliff. And that's why we're in this situation right now. That's why we're firmly in the minority. And that's why we've lost control of the White House. So some people, you know, if you think that's a solution, that's fine, but it's going to be a competition of ideas, and we know that's not going to prevail. You know, what's going to prevail is common sense. What's going to prevail, you know, choosing this country over, you know, part of the extreme in our party. You know, what's going to prevail is common sense, and I do believe, you know, for me, in the kinds of chaos that we have in this Trump administration, you know, we should respond with order and logic and patriotism and not shutting down our government right now. And that's where I'm at. And I don't.
No, we don't need to go any further than that. Do you understand what he just said? The types of far left extremism of what we're seeing in our party, he's talking about the AOCs, the Elizabeth Warrens, the Bernie Sanders. He's talking about the progressive wing of his party. They're not going to prevail. We're going to use common sense. They got us in this position and their policies are crazy. Y'all, this is not something that is any longer in the realm of hypothetical. It is actively happening. I'm going to show you AOC in a second. They're doing it from their side too. This is going hot. Trust me, they're sending out their apparatus. Check this out. This is Dean Phillips. This is a prior Democrat rep. Listen to what he says in his opening salvo. Again, this is what's happening. It's not a hypothetical. You're watching it.
Well, I think, you know, the underlying issue here, Leland, I think it's the elephant in the room, is that there's a brewing battle between the left and more moderate wings of the Democratic Party right now. And Chuck Schumer, who had been a relative leftist, I think, for a good part of his career, is now perceived as kind of more the right-leaning Democrat.
Well, hold on, I just going to interrupt you for a second, because you said between the left and the more moderate. Is it not probably a fair commentary that there's a war right now between what was the left, meaning Chuck Schumer, and now the much farther left?
I think that you may have just said it more eloquently than I did, and that is.
You just said it more eloquently than I did. There's a fight between what used to be the far left and now the even further progressive left. There's a fight brewing. There's a battle brewing. What's his face? Senator Fetterman. That's not going to win. That's not the future. Dean Phillips. This is what's happening. Y'all, they're marching these people out. The establishment is firing back at people like this. What you are watching is an active conflict that is starting in the opening throes of a battle. That is actively happening. You've got Bernie Sanders, you have AOC, you have Elizabeth Warren, you have all the players in the party, the Chris Murphys. They all know that they're going to have to pick a side and one or the other is going to win. They're putting themselves in a very uncomfortable position because the far left is moving roles from parasite on the DNC to the host of the DNC. They are actively trying to take power. You just heard Chris Cuomo say it. You just heard Dean Phillips say it. You just heard John Fetterman say it ain't going to happen. The host from News Nation said, it sounds like it's even worse than you're describing. It's happening. Listening to AOC, again, this puts you in such a golden position to win for your ideology. Watch this.
Congresswoman, should Chuck Schumer stay as minority leader?
I think what is so important for folks to understand is that this problem is bigger than one person, and it actually is bigger than the minority leader in the Senate. You had 8 Senate Democrats who coordinated their own votes on this, as well as you have 2 retiring members. Many of them are also up in several cycles from now, with the hope that people are going to forget this moment. And I think what's important is that we understand that this is not just a leader is a reflection of the party, and Senate Democrats have selected their leadership to represent them. And so the question needs to be bigger than just one person. We have several Senate primaries this cycle. I know I'm being asked about New York. That is years from now. I have to remind my own constituents because they think that this election is this year. We actually do have Senate elections this year, and my hope is that people across this country actually participate in their primary elections in selecting their leadership. Thank you.
You didn't really answer the question.
The primary elections, because we have elections coming up, they are trying to take the far left to the mainline part of the Democrat Party. Actively happening. What we are watching is the A, de-evolution and unwinding of the DNC, or B, what's going to eventually be the split of the Democrat Party. You're not going to have any other option. If you can think of a different option, please let me know in the chat. But what you're seeing right now is the progressives make a push and an assault for the control and soul of the party, and you're watching the establishment fight back and send out their people to all the news nations and all the CNNs and all the views. They are actively going off the defense and saying that's not going to happen. We will never allow it. How do you think this is going to go? I'll tell you how it's going to go. Grab the popcorn, grab the nation. We're going to save it while everything else is on fire. That's what I've got for you guys. See you later.